how would we bring this to bear at a large scale to really reduce the mental health crisis? We want to train psychedelic therapists. We've had some estimates that we will hopefully treat about 1.4 million people.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a lot of people, but that's nothing compared to 13 million people that have PTSD.
Just yesterday, right down the street in Green Hills, Nashville, there was an active shooter, killed 6 people, 3 children, 3 adults.
Yeah.
A lot of people are thinking psychedelics is the answer to this. My question is how would we even begin to implement that?
Well, okay, so I would say again that psychedelics by themselves, we tend to put too much power in the thing. Again, it's the therapy.
Okay.
So let's just say psychedelic assisted therapy. And in psychedelic assisted therapy, to give you a sense of what our method is for treating PTSD, it's 42 hours of therapy, and it's with 2 therapists, usually a male-female, but not always. And now we've negotiated with FDA. One of the 2 needs to be licensed as a therapist. The second can be an apprentice working to get a license or doesn't have a license. Mm-hmm. But it's 42 hours of therapy. There's only 3 times that people get MDMA. And it's 1 month apart, and these are for 8-hour sessions. So in addition to these 3 8-hour sessions, which add up to 24 hours, there are 12 90-minute non-drug psychotherapy sessions as well. So there are 3 of these non-drug psychotherapy sessions as preparation. So I'm sure when you went down, you had some time with Trevor and others before you did the Ibogaine. So,
yeah.
So you and I imagine you had something on the phone before, or
Yeah, so the way it worked was we got a coach and a therapist. We could talk to the coach whenever we wanted. We had therapy, I think we had 2 sessions, if I remember correctly, before we went down. Then you go down to Trevor's place, and you have 3 days of preparatory.
Yeah.
Doing just all kinds of different stuff. You kind of group chats, sweat lodge, all write your intentions down, talk about your intentions, all of that stuff. Then you do it, you do the Ibogaine and then the 5-MeO, and then when you leave, you continue with your integration period. Yeah. And I went a little longer than I guess recommended, but because I just really wanted to dig in. But I think I did 4 therapy sessions afterwards.
Yeah. All right. So we have 3 of these 90-minute sessions before the first MDMA, and then 3 of them after each MDMA for integration.
Okay.
So it's a large amount of therapy punctuated by these MDMA experiences. So how would we bring this to bear at a large scale to really reduce the mental health crisis? We're hoping to train around 25,000 therapists. That's nowhere near enough in this decade. Yeah. That's nowhere near enough. There's estimated 13 million PTSD patients in America, and there's even more that people have depression.
Yeah.
There's loads of people that are addicted to, dependent on alcohol or other drugs and
opiates.
And yeah, so I think it's going to take. That's why we're saying net zero trauma by 2070. I think it's really going to take generations to do this, but I think the steps are going to be working with the FDA to get MDMA approved as a medicine for PTSD, and then we want to look at it for other things as well. There are groups that are working to make psilocybin into a medicine, and they're suggesting that maybe 2025 or so, they might be able to, 2026, 2025. I am trying to do Ibogaine research, and others are as well, to try to bring that forward. There's researchers now working on just 5-MeO DMT. So what we had now in America, there's a roughly 1,500 ketamine clinics. So ketamine has been developed, S-ketamine, an isomer of ketamine, but it's a classic pharma play in the sense that it was developed without therapy. Pharma companies don't know psychotherapy. So and ketamine and all these drugs, as we talked about earlier, they have a pharmacological effect, a psychological effect, and you can do some good sometimes without taking it with psychotherapy. But you can also do harm. And so the way ketamine has been approved, it's without psychotherapy. And a lot of these clinics that are really smart and wise combine it with therapy. You
Okay.
get better results. You don't need as much ketamine. It lasts longer. So what we're going to have to set up, I think, is thousands and thousands and thousands of psychedelic treatment centers. And the goal is to not have, here's a ketamine center, here's an MDMA center, here's an ibogaine center, here's this. We want to train psychedelic therapists, and they want to be cross-trained into all the different drugs. And then when a person comes to this treatment center, now we are also doing a lot of work to try to get this covered by insurance. And we think we've got good responses so far from the insurance companies because the cost of untreated PTSD is really high. Mm-hmm. All right, but then people will come to this treatment center and they will then have a customized program developed for them by these trained therapists. And so I think over the next, by 2032, we've had some estimates that we will hopefully treat about 1.4 million people.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. But that's nothing compared to 13 million people that have PTSD, and the number is growing.
Yeah.
All right, so the other part to answer your question about how do we really change the mental health crisis, there's two main things I'd say. The one is that we need to legalize and regulate these drugs, and we need to make it so that people could try it on their own. Maybe you had a small trauma, but if you don't do something, it becomes PTSD. But if you treat it, or maybe people just, so within this post-prohibition world, what we need is pure drugs available to people, so they're not getting contaminated drugs, dying from fentanyl or something. We need honest drug education instead of the DARE program that scares. We need honest drug education. We need to train people in peer support. So we have what we call the Zendo Project, which is a group where we do psychedelic harm reduction at Burning Man and other events. So places where people go to do psychedelics, and we would say non-medical settings, a lot of times they're just looking for fun, and something difficult comes up, and then they're not prepared to deal with that. Mm-hmm. Or they're not even looking for fun, but still something difficult comes up, and then they don't know what to do. And often they would get tranquilized, or they could become a problem for authorities, they could get arrested. So what we want to show is that what we're proposing in a therapeutic setting makes sense in sort of non-medical settings. So we have hundreds of volunteers that we organize every year at Burning Man. And last year we had about over 500 people came for help.
Really?
Yeah. Often from either while they're in the midst of a really difficult psychedelic experience, or they had one the day before and now they're trying to integrate it. And so we need widespread understanding about peer support. So we train people in peer support, psychedelic harm reduction, so people can help each other. So with all of those things, with a post-prohibition world, with all of that, then I think we can, over time, work both with people with a diagnosis that then gets covered by insurance, and then people can do this on their own in a wiser way than just with no guidance. The other answer or response to your question is that we need to move to treat people closer to the trauma. So what that means is right now, the FDA has forbid us from working with people that are younger than 18.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.